Dean Blandino, who obviously had a busy weekend. He's the head of officials for the NFL, and he's kind enough to join us. Dean, walk me through the Dez Bryant play.
Sure, Dan. So the rule basically states that if you're going to the ground to make the catch, you have to hold on to it throughout that entire process of contacting the ground. So Dez controls the ball as he's going to the ground, so he's in the process of trying to complete the catch. When he lands, the ball hits the ground. It's in his left arm. It hits the ground. It pops up into the air. That makes it an incomplete pass. He has to hold on to the ball throughout that action of contacting the ground in order for it to be possession and a catch.
Okay, he does take 3 steps. Shields does make contact with him, and then he's down at the half-yard line. It felt like Dez was trying to make a football move to score a touchdown, not just have control, possession of the football. It looked like he had the ball in the 3 steps he took. Shields has, they make contact, so he would have been down by contact. That's what I saw.
Had he been a runner, yeah, he would have been down by contact, but he has to establish possession first. And I think you got to forget about the steps when he's going to the ground. If he's upright, absolutely. He's upright, he has control, he takes 3 steps, there's no problem. But when you're going to the ground, it doesn't matter if you take 2 steps, a knee, that's all considered one process. And the football move, that has to be an obvious, overt act. He has to gather himself and then lunge, dive for the goal line. And we looked at that. It's all his momentum. It's all one process. And he basically has to hold on to it when he lands, and he didn't. So it's not a catching down by contact because he didn't establish possession yet.
Was the call made from New York with headquarters, or was it made on site in Lambeau?
Well, it's a consultation. So we're in communication with Gene Steratore. So I was on the headset with him. We both agreed that he was going to the ground during the process. We looked to see if the ball touched the ground, and it was clear the ball did touch the ground. And then we looked to see if the ball came loose, and it did. We talked about, was this an act common to the game? We didn't feel that it was a clear, overt act of him gathering himself and lunging for the goal line. So we considered it all part of the process. So we both were in agreement that it was an incomplete pass.
5 years ago, is this a catch?
No, 5 years ago, this is not a catch. This rule has been in place, and it was actually even more difficult for it to be a catch prior to 1999 because anytime the ball touched the ground during that process, even if the receiver had control, it was incomplete. And if you remember the 99 championship game with Bert Emanuel,
yep.
And so we actually changed the rule back then to say that it could be a catch if you maintain control of the ball even though it touched the ground. So I think we're more liberal now than we were back then, but you still have to hold on to it when you land in order for it to be a catch. That third element, that holding on to the ball when you land, still has to be met to gain possession.
What if Mike McCarthy does not throw the challenge flag?
If Mike McCarthy doesn't throw the challenge flag, then the ruling on the field would be a catch, and we go from there. But obviously Mike knew the rule, and he got the challenge flag out, and that's why you and I are talking.
He's Dean Blandino, head of officials with the NFL, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. Any of the officials on site, was there any disagreement before that call was made?
No. The only people that are involved in the replay review are the referee and myself. So the other officials on the field aren't involved in that replay review. Obviously, the field judge ruled it a catch on the field. And then we go from there, and it's just Gene and I really discussing it and looking at the available angles.
Clear up the Ravens-Patriots game with the substitutions of what Bill Belichick did and what John Harbaugh objected to. Sure.
So what New England did is they reported a player with an eligible number, 34, Vereen. He reported as ineligible, which he can do. That's legal. Any player. Normal, 99% of the time, you're going to see the 72, the offensive lineman comes in, reports as eligible, and plays a tight end position. You see that all the time. The referee makes an announcement. We point him out to the defense. This was the opposite. This was a player with an eligible number playing an ineligible position. And that's what the Patriots did. He reported to the referee. The referee made an announcement, pointed him out to the defense. And I guess the Ravens' contention is that they did not have enough time to match up. They were not given enough notice to match up with that change in status of that player, because he was actually split out wide as if he were going to be a pass receiver, an eligible player. But by formation, it was legal. He was covered up, which is legal. They had 7 men on the line, and we did announce it and point them out to the defense, but the Ravens and obviously Coach Harbaugh believed that they were not given enough notice, which is something. Look, we'll review all of our mechanics like we do after every game. And it's something that will be discussed during the offseason.
But if you report in as ineligible and then stay in the game, do you then have to announce that Vereen is eligible?
He can't. That's a great question. So if he reports as ineligible, then he can't stay in the game on the next play at an eligible position. He has to leave for one play, because that rule is there so you don't play games with, okay, he's eligible one play, I'm ineligible another play. So there are certain things that have to happen. He either has to leave for a play, you could have the end of the quarter, you could call a timeout, but there are certain things that have to happen for Vereen to go back to an eligible position.
The Cam Chancellor leaping over the Panthers' offensive line while deemed legal, will that ruling change?
It's something that we'll look at. It is legal because he jumped from off the line of scrimmage. He didn't land on players, so those would be the two things. And he certainly didn't use the body of an opponent or a teammate to gain leverage to get additional height. It's something that will be looked at. There's probably a safety element to that. And just like with every other issue, the competition committee that involves player safety and competitive impact, we'll look at that during the offseason.
Any rule changes in the offseason?
Well, we don't know at this point. It's probably too early to tell. We'll do a comprehensive review of the season. We'll look at instant replay. We'll look at all the player safety elements. So at this point, I don't know what's going to come out of the competition committee meetings, but I'm sure we'll have a lot of things to discuss.
Well, would you look at instant replay for pass interference?
It's something that will be discussed. It was proposed last year by New England to allow the coach to challenge any officiating decision. I believe that there's a lot of sentiment for that or heading in that direction. So it's obviously something that we're going to consider. But we have to look at it and decide, are there unintended consequences to that? It's something that replay has never been involved in, so it's going to be, I believe it's going to be a healthy discussion during the offseason.
When you look at that play with Dez Bryant, and you know that the playoff hopes of the Cowboys are going to hinge on what you're going to talk to Gene about, how nervous are you, or what's the emotion?
Well, there's no emotion. We've been involved in over 400 replay reviews this year, a bunch during the playoffs. So there's really no emotion. We're just trying to apply the proper rule, determine if there's indisputable evidence, and just trying to get the play right. So you just try to eliminate all the emotion and do your job. So that's kind of the way I approach it. Did
Jerry Jones call you?
No, I've spoken to the Cowboys about the play and communicated why the decision was made, and that's something we do in any situation where it's a controversial or noteworthy play.
I know you got to run. Thanks for joining us, Dean.
All right, Dan, take care.
That's Dean Blandino, head of officials.